Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of Just One More Podcast. I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and once again, for another week, indulging in the insanity of the conversations that we have. We have John from My Brain on Games. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing good.
So usually we record on a Sunday. We are not recording on a Sunday. We are recording on Monday, October 17th, 2022. We are 10 days away from Star Ocean, the Divine Force. Hopefully some people out there have that marked on their calendar, because Tri-Ace is going to need the money. So...
yeah, I mean, who's to say even if this is a success that they're going to see enough of the windfall for it to matter for their future? You know, we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know anything about what's going on there.
Hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully the game sells well enough that they start getting more shots. I think in the last episode you and I kind of went down some of their recent work, and it's just kind of being more support for other projects, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, support for other projects and just remasters or revisiting their previous games. So not a lot of new original content being done.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Tri-Ace, I like their combat systems. I like the gameplay that they bring to the table. But, we are 10 days away from the Divine Force releasing on Xbox platforms, PlayStation, PC through Steam. I'm not sure if I mentioned it last week, but I did get it pre-ordered on the Xbox Series X version, or I guess just the Xbox version, partially because the box art I think looks better with the Xbox branding than it does with the PlayStation branding. With the PlayStation branding, the PS5 logo banner thing along the top, cuts off the art, and on the Xbox, at least with the launch of the series platforms, it's now just kind of off in the left-hand corner. It doesn't take up the entire thing, so like the artwork, it just looks better on the Xbox case than it does on the PlayStation. I know, kind of a small, minute detail, but
yeah, I mean, I guess if the performance is going to be the same across both versions, there's no exclusive content. At that point, it doesn't really matter. I pre-ordered my copy through Amazon, and I've received a notification that the expected delivery date is, I don't know if it's been pushed back, just for my copy because I pre-ordered later or what's going on, but I mean, I think my expected delivery is like November 14th or November 4th. So I was looking at that today and thinking, I probably need to change that.
Yeah.
Get it someplace else, or I'm sure it'll be a sort of game where I could probably just walk into GameStop or walk into a Target or Walmart and be like, hey, give me that game right off the shelf.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that with they're not calling it Day One Edition or anything, but I'm sure possibly with that first batch it'll include whatever DLC was like the pre-order bonus. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that is strictly just a pre-order thing, but Square Enix likes to make people think that they're getting some special stuff when they're really not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just day one stuff.
Yeah. But it would really suck if you didn't know that and you were just like, it was the day of Star Ocean. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's just going to come later in the day. And then the next day comes by and it's like, it's still not here yet. Why is...
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you're that aloof that you're not aware of when your pre-orders are arriving, you probably also don't care that it's not coming to you on day one.
Because it would definitely not be a good thing for it to be like middle of November, a couple weeks after the game has already come out, and then it's directly lined up with the Pokemon releases for you.
Yeah, and then looking through my open Amazon orders, it made me remember. Oh yeah, the Sega Genesis Classic 2.
Oh yeah,
That's coming out like that first week of November. Although that will be shipping from Japan, so I'm sure that won't arrive for a couple weeks, maybe like a week or two.
So for the most part, kind of getting into getting more into my new role at work. So, not too surprising. Didn't have a whole lot of time to play. So Yakuza Like a Dragon was really the only thing that I put really any time into. Getting kind of caught up again with the grinding and trying to get the items and all that kind of stuff. Trying to figure out how to finish certain side quests before moving the story forward. That kind of thing. I did finally. I think I'm getting close to the end of chapter 10, so I got another playable character. I think I'm drawing a blank on the name now. I think it's June. I think it's like Joon. I think his job is a like a hitman or some kind of he fights people with like brass knucks type things. So his weaponry deals with getting in there and fisticuff type combat. At least with that job that's exclusive to him. But yeah, got him. Played around with him a little bit. That job is pretty fun. It is in your face, in your face action. But yeah, didn't get a whole lot of time into it. Did play a couple matches of Smite over the last week. Just kind of getting back into the groove of that. Playing more on the Xbox because of the fact that unlike the PlayStation account, when you play Smite on Xbox, you have cross progression across the Switch and PC. So anything that you unlock, anything that you do in any of those versions of the games carry over to other platforms, whereas the PlayStation version does not. So I was like,
so any progression you make in a PlayStation version of Smite, it's only evident in a PlayStation version?
Yep, it is only. So all of these special like seasonal skins for the gods, or the special like loading frames or wards that you get, any of the items, voice packs, reskins, colors, that kind of stuff. If you unlock anything like that on PlayStation, it does not carry over to any other platform.
That sucks.
Yeah, especially since
you played a ton of it on the PC before. Have you put a lot of time into the PlayStation 4 or 5 version?
I did on and off for a couple of years. I did just like the special like seasonal events and stuff that they would do, and
were you doubling up then? Were you like, hey, I got to get this stuff in the PlayStation version, and then also feeling the need to go back to the PC version?
I did. I played through a couple of like their battle pass seasons and stuff to get the special skins and music tracks and that kind of stuff. So I did. I doubled up, but then I started thinking, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm really like, it's
that would take some time too.
Yeah, like
let me just do it'd be like me playing Asura's Wrath multiple times. You're basically doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, and part of me always thought that at some point PlayStation would just flip that switch and cross progression would be supported. Because I was naive at the time of me starting to put so much time onto the PlayStation version of Smite. But as I've gotten
years
older,
later,
yeah, as I've gotten older, they're really not. They don't really budge quickly or at all. So for the most part, it was just kind of over the last like week or two. Plus, there's things that are available on like the Xbox version. Well, there's things that are available on the non-PlayStation versions of Smite that is not available on the PlayStation version, things like you can basically have like an ad loop going through. They're like 8-second to 13-second videos that you just basically watch ads and you generate like in-game currency. Or once you've watched enough of the ads, you unlock special chests and stuff that are like skins or whatever, announcer packs, or just random items. So for the most part, on PlayStation, you don't have that option. But when playing on PC or Switch or Xbox, you've got that. So you can just kind of, while you're waiting for a match to go to a lobby, while you're waiting for that countdown to reach 0 to then actually get into the game, you can just have ads playing, getting in-game currency that you can then use to buy skins and stuff later on. So,
well, I guess that's kind of nice that the PlayStation versions omit that. That way you're not just sitting there watching ads. But I guess they are doing that because they want to drive you to actually use real-life money to buy the in-game currency.
Yeah. That's because
I mean the platform holders are going to get their cut.
Yeah, so for the most part, like you're essentially waiting for the lobby to get into, or you're basically waiting for a countdown to hit 0 to get it into the lobby because it's all like matchmaking stuff. So you're waiting anyways.
So is that there a wait on the PlayStation version to get into the lobby?
Yeah. So there is a wait on PlayStation. Like you can go and you can like spec out your gods and stuff, and like here's a custom thing for like the items that I'll build while I'm playing and blah blah blah. Like there's things that you can do, but as far as like earning in-game currency, being able to, because they have two versions of currency. They've got gems, which are more valuable, and you can buy them with actual real world money. And then they have favor, which is worth like maybe a fifth as much as the gems, but you can still use favor to buy things. But favor you can actually earn just by watching these ads or playing in the games and stuff. So, so for the most part, like since you're going to be waiting anyways to get into the lobbies to then get into a match, like just having an ad play that's just like 8 seconds really isn't that bad. Especially since some of the game modes, it can take like a minute or two for the matchmaking to put people together. So, it just after it is a little frustrating because there are quite a few skins. I didn't realize how many skins that I had on PlayStation that I now no longer have because there's just no cross progression.
Because you didn't earn them elsewhere.
Yeah. So it is a little frustrating to be like, oh, well, I've got this skin just on PlayStation. So a little frustrating about that, but it's, I am playing more on Xbox, so I'll have skins and stuff that I won't have on PlayStation. But the good thing is that I can then take that account, and if I'm on the go, I can boot it up on the Switch and play Smite on the Switch as long as there's an internet connection. So yeah, that's for the last week. That's kind of what I've been doing. Smite and
you've just been watching a bunch of ads in Smite.
Capitalism at its finest. And then of course the usual things of like Sudoku when I'm trying to go to bed. But
well, for my part, I beat Jedi Fallen Order this week, or I guess last week. Reached the end in that, went back and did some cleanup to get all the achievements, explored all the areas. And I don't know, I think I was kind of talking about it before where it was described as a Metroidvania, and especially towards the end, not the end of the game per se, but kind of like, okay, I understand that the game's closing up, I want to get all the achievements, let me go back through and kind of explore all these areas, get all the secrets, all these passageways. At that point, it was really fun. Like the exploration in the game, the adventuring sort of aspect of it's really top-notch. I mean, this is kind of like an Uncharted Star Wars with that Metroidvania exploration. It's kind of like an Uncharted, don't want to say like narrative, thematic setting or anything, because of course it's Star Wars, but really feels a lot like Uncharted, and maybe it's just because of the wall climbing. like every 5 minutes you're climbing something, hanging from some grass, some ledge.
So are they like are they highlighted yellow to kind of let you know where you need to go to climb or
No, it's not like that.
okay.
It they are distinguishable. It's hard to miss. Most of them are not hard to miss. There's maybe one or few that really blend in with the environment well, but no, never had any issues. And one of the cool things, I think, part of that exploration, why that was so fun, is the map system. Star Wars has a lot of cool technology, cool kind of like retro futuristic technology. The map system is like straight out of Metroid Prime games, and so I don't think you played a ton of those, but the map in those games is like a fully scannable, pannable, like little 3D recreation of the environment of each individual room. So it was really fun just kind of pulling that up and just scanning through, basically going the narrative progression, how I went through a world, through a planet. Like, okay, well, let's see, I've got all this explored, then I went here, and oh, wait, there's a side path or there's a door that I can now access.
So is there a lot of like hidden paths or
Yes. Yeah, like typical Metroidvania fashion, there's a lot of like gatekeeping based on what abilities you have. So there's a lot of incentive to come back to places you've already explored because, oh, in this game, I've got this new force ability now, or, oh, I've got this thing that helps me open up these sorts of passageways. So there's just, tons of reasons to scour every room you're in.
and what was the final like hour count for you?
Let me see. I can tell you in just like a second. It was 27 hours, 20 minutes. And then probably another couple hours just cleaning stuff up. So about 30 all in all. And then,
a beefy game, something that people can.
Yeah, and the sequel's coming out soon.
Are you gonna get it day one?
No. No, I mean I'm very much interested in it.
Well, with Game Pass, EA Play is part of Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't know that they do what Microsoft does though and put their new releases day and date on that service. Yeah, I mean if it was on there day and date, I'd play it day one. But I don't buy a ton of new games throughout a year, so I don't know that one would rise to the level of me getting. But it's one where, hey, whenever it gets down on sale, a month or two after release, like $40-$30, something like that, I'd probably buy it.
Yeah, because I mean, and that's kind of this year I did buy more stuff day one than I've done in a very long time. Like obviously Star Ocean, the Divine Force is going to be a day one purchase for me. Well, I guess day one, if I'm specifying day one, Triangle Strategy and Star Ocean would be the only two games that would be like a day one purchase. But I've purchased more games relatively quickly,
like within their first month of release or something.
Yeah, like Nintendo Switch Sports I got within I think a week or two of it coming out. Obviously Elden Ring I got roughly a month after, 3 weeks to a month after it came out. Pokemon Legends Arceus I got within a couple weeks of it coming out. So 2022 is more of the exception, but for the longest time, like, and especially now that companies are pushing more of this $70 day one price point. Like I already wasn't buying a whole lot of stuff day one, and game prices are kind of making sure that that's solidified to continue.
I mean, I don't think so, because you just admitted, well, I don't buy a lot of games day one. It's like I don't think that $10 is going to impact you because you're only buying like a half dozen new games a year. You're still going to buy the same half dozen quantity next year. It's just maybe more of them are going to be at that $70 price point.
I mean, like last year I got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart day one, but then that was pretty much it. So 2022 was definitely it. You know, I guess it remains to be seen if it's going to be the exception to the rule. Um, but I guess another thing to kind of point out is a lot of the games that I did get day, relatively soon.
Launch window.
Like most were actually on the Switch. Like, Triangle Strategy being day one, but then Pokemon Legends Arceus and Nintendo Switch Sports, which I think Nintendo Switch Sports may have been $40 or $50. I don't think it was a $60 purchase, but yeah, that's I have my day one buying. Like the only game that I can see myself purchasing day one in the near future is Final Fantasy 16, which is just because I have an addiction to Final Fantasy.
So you're real heartbroken about that Final Fantasy 7 multiplayer mobile game getting shut down.
I mean it. I didn't really have high hopes for it to begin with. I tried it out, and it's an interesting concept, but it just it just didn't really work out. Like I just didn't really like it when I was playing it. And now, granted, when I played it, it was like a month or two after it came out. So, but who knows? Maybe they changed a whole lot of stuff. Maybe it's a fantastic game now, and they're shutting it down, and people are upset. But
no, I don't think.
I don't see that. That's not really the Square Enix way.
I mean, that's what famously happened with Babylon's Fall. A really well-regarded game, tons of people playing it. They're really heartbroken it got shut down. Same situation here.
Yeah, but yet they're still doing stuff with Avengers. Like,
well, that's probably contractual.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but so
once I
you
beat
finished
Jedi Fallen Order, I did move on to a Costume Quest. I did play that.
Aha.
And now, I think I reached out to you, and you said you had played that on the PS3 back in the day. So I assume it's a short game.
Yeah.
I think it was only took me 4 or 5 hours to beat. You probably beat it back then, right?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think the trophies are a little. I don't want to say too impossible to get because there's no online trophies, but if I remember correctly, the trophies were very challenging to get some of those.
Okay, well, I guess different opinions perhaps because I felt they were very easy.
Now, I mean, I guess another thing is when looking at it, I played it oh God, when did it come out on? It was
2011, 2010 maybe.
So about 12-ish, 11-ish years ago.
Yeah.
So,
anyways,
so you 100%ed it is what I'm hearing.
Yes. No. I have 100% of the base game. I've also started up the DLC, the Grubbins on Ice DLC. I always like to play a seasonal game in October, at least one. Seeing as this one is so short, I may be able to play something else, but it's always fun to play a spooky game or a Halloween-themed game in October. And I had not...
Juggernaut.
I had this on my list. I've owned it for a long time. I probably got it on super cheap on 360 back in the day, probably just for a couple bucks, and just never played it. But I saw that True Achievements was saying that it was just added to Game Pass, I think, last week, and the Grubbins on Ice DLC had been made free just a couple months ago, actually. So I thought, hey, that's just like a 4 or 5 hour game. Sure, I'll start that up. That's seasonal. Play through it. But yeah, it's real charming, real fun. It's kind of a light RPG. Yeah. I liked the action-based battle system where you actually have to, press a button or do some sort of command, kind of like a Mario-style RPG. It kept you engaged in the battles.
That's I didn't realize that not all of Double Fine's games were on Game Pass already.
Yeah, yeah. And looking back, this one was originally published by THQ, and so I think that was picked up by Focus Home Interactive. Maybe I think they're the ones who purchased THQ's assets. And this one it's backwards compatible. And then Costume Quest 2, they made a sequel to the first one, I think in 2014 maybe, and it's on 360 and Xbox One, I think PS4 era, but it's not on Game Pass, and it's not something I have, so that's something that I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for in the future, just because this one, this was a fun kind of typical Double Fine game, very humorous, very charming.
Yeah, that's one thing that brings me to a lot of Double Fine games, is just that humor that's with the games. But yeah, we definitely need to do some kind of like Halloween. I don't know if it, probably not like on the day of Halloween, but try to do some kind of maybe try to do a stream of something. Maybe
we can do more Back.
We played
Back for Dead. Is that what the game we were playing? No,
Back for Blood.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead, Back for Blood.
Yeah.
There's some achievements.
Close enough.
There's some achievements, some stuff we can clean up in there. Some new DLC has been added.
And we could also just dive into to Gears of War. I mean, that's kind of a
that's got some spooky elements to it. Monsters coming up out of the ground.
Yeah. Emergence Day. But yeah, so you beat
beat Costume.
You beat 2 games.
Yeah,
you beat 2 games over the last week.
Yeah, beat Costume Quest. I'm in the DLC. I think the DLC's kind of like 2 to 3 hours, almost kind of like similar length, half length of the main game. So that won't take me long to beat. I did fire up. Excuse me. I did fire up the Vita actually.
Oh. You brought it to life.
Vita means life is actually what I have in my notes, so that is apt. I've been doing. Okay, so let me back up. What I've been doing, kind of unnecessary, and again maybe can help you look into like the mindset of me and like how much achievements and stuff like that can kind of take over and really warp my mind. This is like meaningless thing, doesn't matter. And yet, I've gone through my game collection, and I've made a list of every 360, Xbox One, PS4, PS3 game that has achievements or trophies, and I've made an Excel.
Okay.
So I've got the game, I've got the column with their base gamer score or trophy total as totaled by true trophies, and then I've got what their score is on true achievements or true trophies. And then I've got another column for the ratio of like basically telling you how hard it is to get the achievements in the game. And so I've completed that. I did that over the course of a couple hours here and there. And so now I can just sort by like easiest or hardest to kind of figure out, well, if I'm just wanting to clean up some achievements or trophies or like look at my collection of what I own that's easy to get or hard to get, what should I go for? And in that process I realized, oh wait, I have a copy of just some sort of, purchase this game to get an easy platinum, like kind of shovelware game on the PlayStation, just like there is on Xbox. And I have a copy of a game that had a PS4 and a Vita version, and I hadn't played the Vita version. So I was like, shoot, that's going to take me like 30 minutes to get that platinum. Let me fire that up, go ahead and go do that. But while doing that, I was like, well, okay, I'm playing through Costume, and I think I'd already beat Costume Quest at that point. So I was ready for like the next main game I was going to focus on, because the DLC isn't going to take too long for Costume Quest. And it's like, okay, well, we're like what? Like 10 days, 11 days, 12 days out from Star Ocean. This may be a good time to start Ys Memories of Celceta.
That's is that a short RPG?
Yeah, kind of. Looking on how long to beat, it's only like 20 hours to beat the main story, and I think maybe like 30 to 40 for what I would do, kind of like a main story plus playthrough. And I think some of the estimates on like PSN profiles and true trophies listed at like, for a completion, like 60 to 70 hours because it'd require 2 playthroughs. I'm not going to go that far where I'm going to go through and like actually complete it.
Well,
I think back in looking through the game's achievements, and the reason I kind of started up and thought, well, maybe I can play that in between, or play that before Star Ocean comes out, is the fact that my spouse had unlocked some achievements in that, or some trophies in that, on my profile back in 2016, and so that's always been one in the back of my mind where it's like, damn it, I got something unlocked in that game. I'm gonna have to play it at some point. Of course, I bought it with the intention of playing it. I was going to get to it eventually, but that just increases the need to do it.
Yeah, that's. I remember before we had our like achievement and trophy spoof accounts to try to prevent ourselves from accidentally getting a trophy or an achievement, like back in the ye olden days when you opened a menu or something, it would pop an achievement or something. It's like that. I didn't need that to happen because now it's going to be on my list and I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I've got a number of games like that where it's like, yeah, at some point I will have to play Drakengard 3.
Which, yeah, that's. Which I mean, for the most part, like I've tried to not let the trophy and achievement lists control me too much, but there are games that I'm playing and it's just like I really enjoy the game, whether it's like Ratchet and Clank or Spider-Man or hell with like Elden Ring. I'd put so much time into it. I was like I'm not going to be done with Elden Ring until I have that platinum, just because there's so much to do in the game and I'm enjoying the game despite the frustrations of dying so repeatedly. But it's just like, and I guess it's also just how, like, if the trophies or achievements are too grindy, then I'm not, like, if.
Yeah, I mean,
it really depends on if I'm enjoying the game.
I mean, I'm not, it's easy for me to go back and finally play like Ys Memories of Celceta properly, play it proper because it's I enjoy the Ys games, and it's like whenever trophies were unlocked in there, it's like, well, I'm not heartbroken about it. I just wasn't intending on play it like right then, like back in 2016, whenever. It's just I'll get to it at some point.
Yeah.
Now it seems like a good time because even if I don't beat the game, honestly, like if I don't beat this game, if I can't put enough like the 20 hours into it before Star Ocean comes out to beat it, at least beat the game, then it's like, well, that's not terrible either because even if I don't return to it after that, if I only like get like 3/4 of the way through it, it's like, well, I got more trophies in it than I had before. So I guess in one way, if I am still caring about trophies, like, well, my completion percentage increased.
Speaking of trophies, real quick, have you seen anything as far as the Divine Force trophies?
Yeah, I think.
Or achievements?
Yeah, I think the achievement trophy lists have been released. I thought they had.
Let's see, because I'm kind of wondering. Okay, so yeah, True Achievements has the. Let's see, just kind of taking a little look to see just what kind of tasks are up ahead.
Especially with an RPG, and I did it with Ys Memories of Celceta last night, where it's like, okay, well, let me look at what are the missable ones. That way I at least know, hey, whenever I reach this town or something, like, okay, I need to remember the name of that town, because then I need to go actually look at the notes and see what it's saying, because there's something to do there that's missable. So
it looks like there's a bunch of like character ending achievements. It says stuff like Raymond and JJ thereafter, and it says it's a secret achievement. So I'm assuming that all of the characters must have some kind of ending story, or maybe there's a relationship thing that like.
Yeah, it looks like there's
because there are a lot of them.
14 character ending achievement trophies.
And then Up, that's kind of what I was. Clear at least 90% of all quests. Complete at least 90% of the bestiary. Um, Obtain at least 90% of all weapons.
See, I like that though because it's not mandating 100%. Like if it's mandating 100%, that's whenever you get into that stuff where okay, there are missable things perhaps that you need to concern yourself with.
Here, so there is an achievement that says a true finale watched every ending. So multiple endings, which is probably kind of what you and I had talked about probably a couple episodes ago.
And there's actually 16 character endings.
So essentially, we had talked about wondering just how long the game was going to be. Well, now that we have an achievement that says watched every ending, it's probably not like a 60-hour individual story.
And not necessarily because we don't know what those character endings relate to. It's not like, okay, it's like, okay, character ending. And, it's character pairings on these achievement descriptions. Is there basically the final mission you choose, okay, well, I'm going to choose the main character and this person. Like, is that something where you can save right before and then just go back and say, okay, well, I'm going to choose the main character and then this person. Now the main character and this person.
Elden Ring it.
Yeah, so, I mean, we don't know anything. We don't know enough about that yet.
Yeah, true.
There is beat the game at universe level, beat the game at chaos level. So it looks like perhaps at least 2 playthroughs required.
This last one conquered the entire Star Ocean. I wonder if that's just beating. I wonder if that's just beating the game or getting a certain ending of the game.
No, I imagine that's just like the platinum equivalent. Like, hey, get all other achievements and then this one unlocks. Flew
over 100 kilometers. Okay. Walked over 100 kilometers. Okay, so it doesn't seem like... I mean, granted, we haven't played the game yet, but just based on the demo, it doesn't seem like these would be too crazy to get. Like, I remember some of the stuff from previous Star Ocean games where it's like, see 100% of the map.
I mean, it's like...
Of which every area has its own map.
I was telling you to get all the achievements or trophies in The Last Hope. I think it's like hundreds of hours and like 6+ playthroughs.
Yeah. And I was just... in situations like that, I would be like, yep, I've beat the game once. I may eventually go back and play it a second time, but I'm not going to grind out that that platinum or that 100%.
I mean, that's what I have, like, kind of always sitting in the back of my pocket is, okay, like the Uncharted games. I beat those on, like, the next to hardest difficulty, and I basically got all other trophies, so the only thing I would need to get a platinum is to just go beat the games again on the hardest difficulty. So that's always something where I thought, well, whenever my children are old enough and they want to play, or maybe in 10 or 20 years I'll want to play those games again, and I can just play them on the hardest difficulty, really punish myself, but then I'll finally get those platinums.
Some would say, if you're wanting to crush yourself with the Uncharted games to get those trophies, that's what you can do. Because the difficulty being crushing.
And speaking of achievements and trophies, this is a thing that I saw today. We may have to go back for nostalgia, and I may have to go back to boost at least one of these with you, but EA is closing some of their game servers. One of them on the chopping block is NBA Jam on Fire Edition, which we had a lot of fun with back in the day.
Oh, yeah, a nice classic return for the NBA Jam games.
Yeah,
a lot of fun with the game.
On the online side, I think there are only 2 achievements or trophies that are affected by the server closure, and one of them won't take. One of them is just get 5 wins online, and I think the other one is the equivalent of get 25 wins over 2 weeks, essentially.
Oh, well.
But the servers are open until, I think, middle of January, sometime in January.
So still a little bit of time to get those. And of course, they are the game is backwards compatible, I believe. Right?
I don't know. We both have it on PS3.
Oh, yeah,
and that is not backwards compatible.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, I just assumed, man. So I spent so much of my life in the PlayStation camp, but now, like, I just assumed we were talking about Game Pass or Xbox when we were talking about NBA Jam on Fire Edition. So I'm assuming maybe that's like a conversion thing. Maybe I've been converted now. I don't know. I just assumed we were talking about Xbox. But yeah, we will definitely, just as kind of a blast from the past, play that.
Yeah, we'll have to fire that up. And I'm sure you probably already have the Win 5 games online equivalent. I do not. So at the very least, I'm seeing that one and see like, well, that's an easy target to get. I don't know that I want to put in the time to get the other one, but at least that first one, sure.
And it's a fun game. It's definitely it's not like going back and playing a bad game just to get a...
Yeah, from what I recall, it had like a robust single-player campaign.
It's not like me going back and playing Killzone Shadowfall because I was like, oh, I played it right before the servers went down, and I fell in love with the online multiplayer stuff, and then it energized me to play the single player, and then, well, the single player being bad. Yeah. I muscled through and beat the game, but I'm not going to get those trophies.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it for me this week. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Costume Quest, and firing up Ys on the Vita.
So, with the game being, on the Vita, being mobile, for you, does that give you more of an opportunity to possibly beat it this week, since you can take it with you places? Or
yeah, I'll take it with me to work, and when my coworker leaves, just pull that up. No, I'll be able to play it in bed more easily, so that's a boost. One thing I did notice last night, though, having the lamp and lights turned off, the Vita screen is very bright. Its lowest brightness setting is still very bright. Gorgeous screen, but I kind of had to hold the Vita at an angle so it wasn't like blinding me. I didn't want to turn on a lamp because my spouse was sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't want to bother her, but you're not supposed to play in a totally dark environment. But like in that case, it's like, okay, I've got to hold this at like an angle so it's not just like illuminating my face.
And if I remember correctly, I think you've got my original Vita that you bought off of me, so it's got the like OLED screen.
Well, all Vitas are OLEDs, right?
Not the Revision, as I found out. The Revision has an LCD screen. So they downgraded the screen, but they kept the same price. So that's games. I mean, games still look good on the revised Vita, but that OLED screen is nice, and it was a great selling feature for the handheld. But
games are too.
But yeah. In fact, I think some people would say that games are typically a bigger, a more important seller of a platform than brightness or resolution of a screen. But that's just kind of my thought on that. Games, I think, are the most important. Which the Vita, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, the Vita had a good showing of
especially
games.
for someone like you or I who's big into JRPGs. Like, there's tons of great content on the Vita. Like, it does not appeal to everyone, but for like you or I, it's like, hey, this is a gold mine.
And the fact that, digitally, you would still have access to like your digital PSP purchases, which meant that you had like your PS1 classics and obviously like when they had like the minis and stuff, and obviously the like full featured PSP games. But like Persona 4 Golden came out, I think, within the first year of the system coming out, and then like it's just Killzone Mercenary, which I still need to go back and played through the story of that one. Hopefully, it holds up better than Shadowfall does, or did. But like Killzone Shadowfall, Uncharted Golden Abyss was really good despite the fact that they did shoehorn in a bunch of like gimmicky things to show off what the hardware could do with like the gyroscope.
Now, do you have a copy of that, physical copy of that? I need I need to borrow that from you, because I've had that on my Amazon wish list for years, just watching the price, and it's never gotten reasonably cheap in my estimation, and so I've just never bid on it, and that's always been like, okay, well, I need to play that. I need to get that checked off my Uncharted to-do list, but never happened.
I mean, it's a good game. Like I said, they shoehorned in gimmicky things, like with the first Uncharted game. Since you've played that one, you know when playing that one, when you were going to throw a grenade, like you had to like aim with like the motion control of the controller. They've got that in the Vita version, which is more cumbersome because you're moving the thing you're looking at. So like trying to line up, like aiming your sniper shots or throwing grenades, like you're forced to use motion control to line those things up. So like you're trying to move your Vita around to line up these shots or to lob the grenade, and you're having to move your body with it as well so you don't like lose sight of what you're doing on screen. So I like that at least with Uncharted 2 and 3 and 4 they did away with that feature, but it is kind of an annoying gimmick in Golden Abyss. But outside of like that shoehorned in motion control gaming or aiming thing, it's a decent game. It holds up pretty well. I mean, graphically, it is stunning for a handheld game of that time. Like, it doesn't look as good, obviously, as like the PS3 or PS4 Uncharted games, but like it does a really good job of kind of being in between that PS2, PS3.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you sold me on a game I've already been sold on. Thank you.
So that's I'm glad I could help. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, like I'm now getting down to the wire with Yakuza.
You think you'll be able to beat it before Star Ocean comes out?
I mean, I'm hoping. I've been taking on some new projects. Before we started recording, I jumped down the G4 death spiral rabbit hole of sorts. Just kind of pitching ideas to a bunch of people who are pitching ideas, and just a bunch of people wanting to save as much of the G4 community as possible. And not saying that really anything is going to necessarily come from that. I have no idea. Obviously, it would be another edition of the labor of love projects that I'm already doing. But I've got less than 5 chapters to go with Like a Dragon. And it seems like for the most part everything's wrapping up, like the stories are wrapping up. So I don't really foresee the next few chapters being too long, because like there's a very clear defined, hey, we need to get to this guy, this is where we're going. So I really don't think it's going to be too much fluff moving forward. It'll just be me trying to not get caught up in all of the side quests and all the additional things of trying to get the crazy powerful fancy weapons and gear. I've got all the items I need for healing, and my characters are level progressing very nicely. Almost everything that I'm coming across, I'm just kind of waltzing right through. So I don't know how the difficulty will handle things as I move on to the
I seem to
later
remember
chapters. But
discourse around that game being, I think towards the end of the game, there's like a massive difficulty spike.
I think I do remember people saying that there is kind of like a quite a learning
and now
curve later
that,
on.
You know, that may not really apply to your playthrough if you're spending the time now to grind and, you know, stay above level.
Yeah, because pretty much everything that I'm coming across, like boss wise, I'm like there's a little bit of a challenge with the, you know, some of the bosses that I've had to deal with, but really not that bad. Like I've had a couple characters get near death like one time, but that's kind of the extent of the challenge. So I'm curious to see what this difficulty spike will be, and just
I'm
where
curious to see if
it
you
will
can
be.
beat it before Star Ocean.
Well, I've got 10 days. I feel like I'm almost done with chapter 10, so then I would have 4 full chapters to go.
Are the chapters a uniform length? Like, that's a sort of metric where like you have 4 chapters left. It's like, well, I don't know. Is that like 3 minutes or is that 300 hours? I don't know.
So, since so much time had passed between me starting the game and playing through, I think chapter 7 or 8, I really only have like recent memory with chapter 9 and 10 so far. 9 and 10 really, when I actually just went through the story, they really weren't that long of chapters. It's all the additional stuff that I got caught up also doing to complete side quests and missions and try to get certain items and collectibles and stuff. So essentially with like chapter 9, it was like I started at one point and it was like point C and I was done. In chapter 10, I started with an interrogation of a character, and essentially I went to point B and did that little section, got the character, my newest addition to the party, and then they're basically saying, hey, we need to go get this guy, and he's like one of the big bads. So I assume that if I just go after that big bad, chapter 10 will be over, and then I'll be in chapter 11. So it seems like, at least with 9 and 10, it's been very, like, there's 3 things to do in this chapter, and then we move on to the next one. So if it holds up that way, then probably looking at, I mean, I guess as far as difficulty goes, probably like 30 minutes to an hour per chapter is left. If it keeps up with just that point A, point B, point C
if you're just to like
progression.
path it.
Yeah. So it's doable. I just have to not get too distracted from.
Yeah, of course. Part of the fun
path.
of the Yakuza games is all the side stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is fucking crazy. It is such an insane game. Like, I kudos to the, well, not really part of a kudos section necessarily, but just kudos to the writers. Like, they are, like, I don't know how they come up with this stuff. It is just insane. Like, I had a boss fight where I was fighting a guy inside of one of those big construction machines that has the giant wrecking ball.
Oh, a wrecking ball?
And well, yeah, I guess it is just called right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess. Okay, whatever. But like that was that was a boss fight where, like I was fighting a wrecking ball, and as I did damage to the actual wrecking ball, it was doing damage to the guy controlling the machine. So yeah, it's just crazy. There was also, I mean, earlier in the game, kind of another situation where there's this, I can't remember what machine it is, but it basically turned into a transformer and turned into just this weird monstrosity of a mech type thing that would charge forward. It's a crazy game, and I'm excited to see what they do next, since they're keeping the main series as a turn-based RPG. So
Okay.
At some point, you're gonna have to play it.
And then we know that's what you'll be playing this week.
Yeah, that's probably still doing Yakuza, a little bit of Smite. I've been wanting to check out Overwatch 2. I just haven't. But I think I'm probably going to try to get that streaming on Twitch, because I haven't streamed anything in a while. Pretty much ever since I finished Eoden Chronicle Rising. I haven't streamed anything. So
Okay.
as far as you're pretty much focusing in on ease.
I'll beat Costume Quest first. That's what I'll do after this, and then once that's done, the Grubbins on Ice DLC, then I'll focus in on Ys Memories of Celceta.
And maybe have some Overwatch 2 stuff to talk about. I know you're probably not really all that interested in the Overwatches. Yeah. I am Jeff from Just One More Level.
And this was John from MyBurningGames.com.
And you will hear from us next week with episode 15 of Just One More Podcast. See ya, everybody.